Here's a song that I wrote about.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter. I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Mountain. We gon' walk it out and mountain. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up. And I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up. I like the waves. I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I'll rise up. And I do it 1,000 times again.
Side to Ladies of Elton.
The silence is in my head, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like I am, but I promise we would take the world to its feet. Mountain, feet. Mountain. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. You, you, all we need. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to NJ Pack's Pearls of Wisdom, Great Day of Elders Stories. My name is Aisha Marable. I am the director of New Jersey Performing Arts Center's Community Engagement Program. And I'm so honored to be here with you today, celebrating with some amazing people. Today, I'm going to start the conversation by introducing our very own chairperson of our Pearls of Wisdom, and she has the pleasure of introducing all others. I just want to tell you on behalf of John Schreiber and the entire team that we are on intermission. While the building is closed, we are still programming virtually. And so we just thank you for being part of our NJ Pack in Your Living Room virtual series. On behalf of ADP and M&T, our sponsors that make this all happen for community engagement, we celebrate you, and let us begin a wonderful conversation with the most amazing people that you will ever meet. Deborah Smith-Gregory from NAACP.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our lunchtime conversation with the Council of Elders. Our topic today is electoral empowerment, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And to discuss our state and where we are and where we need to be are two very great men. Wilbur McNeil is one of the founding members of the Weequahic Park Authority. You know that the parks have become our sanctuaries and our refuge now in this period of COVID. It is so appreciated now. We might have taken it for granted, but Weequahic Park is one of the is the second largest park in the county. It has that tremendous track around the lake that if you do that, you are know you're fit. Wilbur McNeil has been leading the charge to enhance and beautify and modernize the park for many years, and he can tell you more about that. So I want to welcome Wilbur, and then Junius Williams, our Newark historian and friend, who has been documenting civil rights, social justice, and the movement of grassroots organizations here in Newark as well as beyond. So I don't want to take up a lot of time. We have a lot of ground to cover, particularly in light of most of you probably watched the Democratic National Convention last night. And so we just need to get started. So we're going to jump in. Let me just say this. This project, if you will, is the brainchild of Miss Susan Pope. And she is working on a doctoral degree, and she found it very, very important that our stories locally be told. And I just want to publicly say thank you to her. America is a throwaway generation, and we don't respect and lift up elders. It's almost as if, you know, you've outlived your usefulness, but we have so much more that we can offer. And when you go travel abroad, you see that there is a totally different perspective about the elders. So Susan has come to say, we need to hear your stories. She is documenting our stories, and she is going to take over, and I'm just going to chime in from time to time, and we will have an exciting, exhilarating conversation with a call to action. Susan.
Thank you, Deborah, so much. I am so honored to be here amongst so much wisdom. At the onset of this pandemic, I was reminded of an old African proverb that says, when an old man dies, a library burns to the ground. And our elders hold so much wisdom. And as we go into this world, as we continue on this world and all that we're doing, and think about how to educate our students, we have to be able to look at our past and hear from the wisdom of our elders. And at the onset of this pandemic, when we were losing so many of our elders, it just hurt me so much to my heart to know that we were losing so much wisdom. And so I just thought, we need to document these stories. We need to document so that our teachers, our teacher educators, those who are going into education, who are thinking about going into education and teaching our children, especially our brown and Black children, will know the stories that have brought us to where we are, will know the stories that have made it possible for us to be here for so long and to have so much tenacity. So thank you to our elders that are here. And we want to hear your stories today. So I think we're going to start with Junius. If you would Junius, just tell us just something about, who you are in Newark and what your projects are.
All right. Thank you, Susan. I enjoyed our earlier conversation. You brought out some memories that I had forgotten. My project that captures most of my memories is my book called Unfinished Agenda, Urban Politics in the Era of Black Power. That book is still out there. If people want to read it, it kind of tells you not only about me, but about Newark. That was my intent, to serve as a means by which, okay, well, there it is. It serves as a means by which to tell my story, how I grew up politically, but also the story of Newark, because that's where most of my political growth occurred. But it also talks about how to organize. And that's my favorite topic right now. Teach young people how to organize and be empowered. The second thing that Aisha just put up, my other big project, has been the development of a website called riseupnewark.com. And it is the history of Black Power in Newark. It starts back in the early days of Newark, when African Americans first came here, and goes up to 1970 at this point. And what is the purpose of it? To show the empowerment process. Well, you see, we were here long before some of the other more recent European ethnic groups, but they got power before we did. And so in the first chapter, we compare the lifestyles of different ethnic groups. And as I learned a little bit more about them, then I saw that as each new group came, they were vilified. You might even say they were niggified, because the other group always said, you're not qualified, you're not capable, and in some cases, you ain't even white. So as that comes forward, we see that we're always at the bottom until we got at the top. So I won't tell all of that story, because you should read this. It's got 3 chapters. The second chapter is when Irvine Turner got elected. I see some people here who know about that fight, Walter Chambers, and how that occurred, and how that was the first emergence of Black Power. That was 1950 to 1960. And then into the 1960s, Wilbur McNeil and others of us, we challenged Hugh Adeniji. And we even had to fight. Sometimes we had to fight some of the people who we thought were free and would be helping us, who were black, but they didn't. So because they were loyal to the Adeniji administration. I don't know what's happening over there that kind of it doesn't look like that usually, but something must be going on with the technology here. So if you go through that, you show how we went from protest to what I call power when we elected Ken Gibson as the first black mayor. We most recently had a program right here on NJPAC called that, Protest to Power. And to make a long story short, we showed how people went from protesting in the street, those kinds of organizations, to an organization that was a coalition of organizations that was able to convert to electoral politics and elect the first black mayor. We were between this medium here, this medium that we're on, we also were involved in Facebook parties, and it got all over the world. And at last count, there were 18,000 people who had viewed that particular discussion. We had Jesse Jackson, we had a panel of veterans, and we had a panel of young people responding. And we asked, was all of this relevant to you? And you can still get that. There is a link that can be used to look at that. And if you're interested in it, I'll make sure you get it. But Aisha can get that. We can get that and put it up here now, maybe if you want to look at that conversation, because it was indeed sparkling. So I'll stop right there. Those are some of the projects I'm working on. I've got some others. We can talk about those later.
So I have a question for you. So our, with the political climate that we're in, and, and I hear you, talk about things, even just when you said Irving Turner, and I'm like, as many times as I've been on Irving Turner Boulevard, I don't know the background of who that is and how that, he came to be. And so thinking about our teachers who are now getting ready to go back into the classroom remotely, and we've spent, months trying to figure this out. But the bottom line, we still need to educate our children, whether we're going to be right in front of them or remotely. So 2 questions I have for you. What prompted you to start doing this work? So what prompted you to start looking into the background of Newark? And how can our teachers use this information, use your website to educate our children about the great city that they live here in Newark?
Well, let me deal with that second question first. I developed a curriculum with the help of my chief researcher, Peter Blackmer. We delivered that curriculum to the city of Newark, to the Board of Education, and it was accepted. And it is being used by some teachers at the school district right now. Now, how widespread this is, I don't know. What I would like to see is that it becomes a mandatory class, a standalone class, and not to be integrated into other social studies as it is now. I think that's very important, because there's enough information in there to go for a whole semester, perhaps a year, depending upon how it's taught. But I do want you to know that it is a part of the school district. Now, what made me want to do this? Well, I'm the historian for the city of Newark. I'm the official historian. There are a lot of historians in the city of Newark, and I wondered why the mayor said he's the official historian, because I run into a lot of people who are the historians, and their claim to it is just as valid as mine. But he said, I'm the official historian. So I guess that gives me an additional word in front of my name. So I've been interested in history since I started learning history as a part of the civil rights movement. And it was because of the interest that I had, not just me, but people my age. We had an interest in learning who we were as African American people. We wanted to know the history that had been kept from us. And as we learned that history, we got mad. And as we got mad, we wanted to know more. And that's how Black Power came about. There is a tinge of anger there because, for example, we learned that Cleopatra was not white. We learned that those pyramids were built by African people. By African people, we mean people who came from sub-Saharan Africa, what is now the Sahara Desert. But they moved up the Nile River to Egypt. And that's where all of this knowledge came from. So we learned all those kinds of things. And we learned it from disparate sources. And so it's been a lifelong task of mine to keep learning. So I said, our young people don't know what I know. Not only do they not know this ancient history, but they don't know the history of the civil rights movement. My friends in SNCC, I was a part of SNCC, they developed the SNCC Legacy Project, and they talked about what they did in the South, and it's affiliated with the university down in North Carolina. And so I said to them, give me some help here so that we can document the parallel history and the succeeding history of our work in the North. And so that's what we did. We set about looking at the history of Newark, how Black people became empowered, but we also said we're going to do this around the country. So I had in mind 10 cities, and so far we've gotten Newark. We've started on Detroit. We're about 2/3 of Detroit, and with some additional funding, we can go to some other cities. But right now, we're just finishing up chapter 4, which will be an examination of how Ken Gibson did as a mayor. We offer that because it's important for the people to know what he did or what he didn't do. And so we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to do that. I think as we get further into this discussion about voting, that kind of analysis, the analysis of what Black Power did or did not do for us as a people, what it did or did not do for us as a city, becomes very, very important.
Thank you so much. It is just so wonderful to have this resource for our not just for our students, but for our educators who are working here in Newark, who may not know the rich history that Newark has. So that is so incredibly important. Mr. McNeil, we would love for you to tell us something about yourself and how you came to the Weequahic Park Association and just how you came into being an activist.
Being an activist, I guess I was lucky. I grew up on Stratford Place in Newark. And my neighbor was Larry West Storks, who was very interested in politics in that block. And she organized, even in grammar school, a group of young men, mostly light-skinned, into politics. She had us join the Young Democrats of Essex County and the UJ Ad Initio elections. And she gave civic classes at our house that taught us what politicians should be doing. That's from dog catcher to governor. And she was instrumental in our upbringing. She organized the Young Dems, and she also organized our sports activity. She created for us a group called the Golden Boys. It was a basketball team. We had uniforms. You know, when most young people in our community didn't have, she got us a coach, Cleo Wallace, who was a graduate from Baldwin-Wallace, who taught us how to have fun with the game. And that's why the Globetrotters were so good, he said, because they had fun with the game, as opposed to the Knickerbockers who we liked. But I was kind of a fancy player, and he adopted our team around my fanciness so that we could have fun. And I was appreciative of that. But my political world changed when Amiri Baraka, Leroy Jones at the time, came back to Newark. He had moved to New York and moved in the Village, and did a lot of off-Broadway plays. And a group of us always would go over to see his plays. And then he left there and moved to Harlem. But his greatest move was when he moved back to Newark. And one of the stops that he made was at my house, and he told me what he wanted to do in terms of organizing the people. And that's when I left the Larry West Storks Adnesio faction to join with him in that effort. And it was an interesting trip working with him. I had been involved with Larry for a long time. In fact, the split came when Honey Ward, one of the activists in our community, wanted to be the district leader for the Central Ward. And I joined with him, and my friends joined with him so that he could defeat Joseph Dispensary, Benny Dispensary. And that was my first kind of break away from the Adnesio faction to get Honey Ward elected. And the one really interesting thing is Larry never got mad with me. She was always glad that I was still interested in politics, and she encouraged me to stay. But when Baraka came to town, he told me the people he had got in contact with and wanted to organize a unified Newark. I didn't think too much of some of the people that politically who he had selected. So he said, you can't make friends, but we'll do the work. And he organized a committee of Unified Newark, of which I was one of the officers in the Law and Justice section. And he really turned the politics around. And also, I got Honey Ward to kind of join with him because of, I helped them to become, and my friends helped them to be the district leader for that section. While we didn't have a vote, all the district leaders, we got most of the district leaders who we knew to vote for Honey. And, but Larry still remained a true friend, and she helped us in my early days towards being involved politically. And I always want to thank her for that.
That is so incredible. And, you know, for both of you, it just reiterates for me how when you have somebody that pours into a young person and inspires them to activism, you know, how it just can empower them to change this world. And so now I'm thinking for both of you about, you know, thinking about how you got into politics and in activism, how we're thinking about our students again now, you know, what can our teachers, and I'm going to start with the first question, then we'll open it up to anybody else who has questions. But, you know, what do you think our teachers, our educators, even just those in our community can do to help empower others to make sure that we get out and vote? Sometimes there is such apathy, thinking that, you know, my vote doesn't matter. But, you know, we know this, never did we ever have a choice, but this coming November, we do not have a choice. Not voting is not a choice, especially this year. But how do we empower people to empower our young people, especially, to make sure that we are getting that message out?
Who's that addressed to?
Either one of you, whoever wants to answer that.
Well, I'll start. First, I want to thank Wilbur for telling that story about Honey Ward. I did not know that. And that's interesting because when Honey got those district leaders together, he became the ward chairman. He wasn't just a district leader. He became the ward chairman of the Democratic Party in the Central Ward. So Wilbur, I'm going to ask you right now publicly, can we use your story? You are now saying, can we put you in the website talking as you just did?
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't have a little piece of paper for you, but I got your word. Oh, that's wonderful. So one of the things that I'm especially proud of is the work that I have been doing with young people at Rutgers. We had an organization first called the Abbott Leadership Institute, and then that was teaching parents how to become more effective advocates for public school education. And then a few years later, when that started that about 18 years ago. And then a few years later, I said, well, young people have to be involved in this too, because they have to learn how to organize, they have to learn how to become advocates, and they have to learn how to become smart advocates. So that's when we formed the Youth Media Symposium. So both of those institutions, by the way, are being headed now by Kalina Berryman, and she's doing a very good job. So from the beginning, I've tried to teach young people that voting is not only a right and a duty, but it represents power. And so I tell the story of SNCC and how they went into Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, and how the sheriff's deputies always tried to put them in jail, drive the people off the plantations, and even kill people because they wanted the right to vote. But they
Mr. Williams, I'm sorry, can you, for those that may not know, can you tell everybody what SNCC stands for?
All right, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was started in 1960. This is the 60th anniversary of the formation of SNCC. It no longer exists now, except in terms of the legacy project that they have that's ongoing. So that's the first argument that you use. I mean, that this is historical. I mean, this is what people went to jail for. I went to jail for the right to vote. I went to prison for the right to vote. So people who spent thousands of more times in jail than me, we gave up something to do that. So that's very important. Now that doesn't particularly persuade people one way or the other. And so I try to explain folks that you don't have a choice, as you just said, because if nothing else, you have to look at what could get worse what could get worse than worse right now because of what's going on with the current president. For example, under the Democrats, we did get some health care, and that health care included, gave health care to millions of more people. It didn't do as much as Bernie wants, and I'm a Bernie bro, but it is a step in the right direction. You're talking about people who don't want to raise the minimum wage from $9 or $10, but now the Democrats said, and Biden says, well, we're going to get the minimum wage up to $15. That is a step in the right direction. I don't want to go through all the but fors, but one of my friends from school said it best. It's like if you're trying to go somewhere and you're trying to get a taxi, you can't get the taxi, but you get on the bus. Now the difference between the taxi and the bus is the taxi will take you all the way where you want to go, but the bus will get you in the general direction and you have to walk the rest of the way. Mm. Right now, the Democratic Party under Biden will be the bus. It's going to be up to us to get the rest of the way. That's how I see it.
That is so important because, you know, you have people, like you said, you're a Bernie bro. And so you have people saying, well, you know, Joe Biden isn't my choice. So, and then just complaining. But like you said, we've got to get on the bus and help that bus along. Like we can't expect him to do it all by himself. So thank you for reminding us of that. Mr. McNeil, what are your thoughts?
No, I think Julius is on the right track, and I'm congratulating him on doing his book because reading is the key. But what we read, you know, if we start reading those old slave narratives that's in broken English, you know, you become a lot closer to our struggle than some of the literature that's put out now that kind of softens the blow. But those slaves were writing You know, I have a lot of books. When I got involved in the park, I started studying about New Jersey history and the parks. I have volumes of books in this here office, and I mean, literally thousands of pages, but it would be hard put to find 16 pages out of thousands of pages of, of the history of the Blacks and the Native Americans in this country. So it's important that our writers like Julius, you know, do the research and get the information about what the slaves went through. You think we're going through something now? You know, to come over in those slave ships, you know, and be employed. You know, I really became involved when about Newark, when a friend of mine who worked down the port started telling me about the Blacks who actually organized the trade union for Port Newark. And they introduced the white union and gave them their charter because they said they could get 3 times the salary for them because they could negotiate better. And they did. So, I mean, how can you turn down 3 times more than what you was making to let somebody else in on the game? But the port it's always been one of our major problems. They bring in $1 billion a day, and we actually don't have much control over those funds that's coming into Newark. When you start talking about power, you have to be in charge of those large funds, or at least getting a major piece of it. Right to this day, we're not getting a major piece of those funds. If you're talking about the park, when I started studying about the park and did research on the funds that was expended in the parks in our community, fell very short, but all the parks fell short, you know, in terms of what the county was doing with the money to rehabilitate parks. The history of this park is being torn apart because of money and contracts who they issue. We have a lake that's really filthy. There should be boats and a restaurant on it like they have in West Orange. All that, you can go all around Newark and can't find, you know, a place where business people could sit down and have a drink and talk business. There's very few. In the South Ward, where this park is located, actually none. But it's all about, in America, it's all about money, you know. And like the longshoremen gave up their leadership so they could make more money. They didn't look at the bigger prize of really being able to sit down at the table with the vendors who brought merchandise into this here country and negotiate a decent salary for its workers. But, you know, that's right until this day. I mean, janitorial services, when I was director of the Board of Education janitorial services, you know, the union could have taken over all janitorial service with training in this here city, the airport, the hotels and everything. But the people who are in charge of the Newark Board of Education were happy with just being in charge of a local union like the Board of Education. Millions of dollars are spent in the county on its parks, but we're the last, even up to this day. We're the last to receive proper funding, and they tear down our history. This park is famous. I've traveled all over the country with park organizations that the Olmsted Park are famous parks, and you could raise money just by being Frederick Law's Olmsted Design Park. But they're destroying all Olmsted legacies in this here park. When I first started, the park was so bad that even the squirrels had deserted it. Today, the county is destroying it. They're putting in artificial fields, baseball fields, where great lawns were that New York City worship. They're tearing down buildings that the community actually restructured to show that their efforts to build another edifice to show that they made money and it's their building, you know? Politics goes right to the economic part of ruling a city. If you're not in touch with the economics that run with the city, you're just an elected official who follows orders, you know. But I really appreciate the books that are being written about Newark that says that, and very few are.
I'd like to weigh in. These are great pictures of my park. To weigh in on something that Wilbur said, and as well as Junius. When I was coming up in Newark, there were people who did take children in and mentor them. So just like Wilbur was talking about, Larry did it, and then Amiri came along. And what Amiri did was infuse culture, education, and discipline. The self-discipline, so that most of the people who were a part of Committee for Unified Newark exhibited a great deal of self-discipline that they had learned, along with the culture of Black people, along with the education, as Wilbur said. And then you have people like Honey Ward, who is also, may he rest in peace, we need to say his name. He is a deceased member of this council. And one of the things that Honey did was he would make sure that all of the kids in the neighborhood were taken care of. Even though he was a politician, and those politicians at that time, I guess maybe just coming into their own for the first time, they still kept their fingers on the pulse of the community, and they still made sure that they were raising up children. I don't know that we're doing that now. Bits and pieces and pockets. And Susan, you keep going to the fact about education, and you keep talking about that as an educator, and myself as a former educator, well, as a retired educator, never stopping.
You're always the educator.
Always. But there is some, we're at a point now where, you know, we look at what happened yesterday and we look at where we are now. And I know that we're talking about the importance of voting, but one thing, Amiri never sugarcoated anything. So if he were here, he would say that if you don't vote, that you're going to be a part of this country becoming a fascist state. He would say it straight out, right? And you know, we kind of dance around that, and then he would teach that Hitler was not necessarily a dictator from the outset. That's not like he grew into that, and he wooed people into that. And that's what we're facing right now. And it doesn't matter what political party that you're with. It is, if you want the democracy of America, for all its failures and its flaws, but that it has potential and possibility, then you have to vote. And that is the lesson that we have to give to our young people. And then putting them in touch with things, because we're all self-centered people. So we want to know about how will that affect us. And that's why the young people love Bernie so much. So, because he talked about eliminating student debt. So now we have to teach young people, as Judy said, okay, so we're going to get on this bus, right? But we'll get in the general direction, but we're going to change the bus schedule. And we're going to make the bus go closer. We're going to change the location where it stops, and we're going to hold the bus company accountable. Those are the things that we have to do. And we can't be so timid about it, because we're thinking that we still need to be politically correct, when we see all of us who have studied any type of history. We don't have to be a historian like Julius is. We know what fascism looks like. We know what it looks like, and we know what happened when it rose up, and how it affected us. So if that's what we want here in America, because that's in history, I mean, Junius, you know, history is just a repeat, right? So if you see what happened before and you see that the same thing happening again, and you don't get the lesson and you step into that hole and you break your ankle, that's your fault. The hole's been there. So I just, you know, I just wanted to say that, and we have to just, Junius he still interacts with some of the young people through the youth media symposium. And it's like finding the thing that the young people are attracted to. For YMS, it was filming. For Wilbur, it was basketball. Donald Payne Sr. did the same thing. He had well, we called them canteens. Today you call them parties, but he had canteens, he had the local sororities, he had gathering places, and that is what we need to do. We can't be afraid of our young people. We got to pull them in.
That's one of the things that's interesting about this Democratic Party. I agree with everything Deborah just said about pulling the young people in. I thought that the Democrats would do more to pull young people in. The choice of vice president is not going to do that, nor was it designed to do that. Because after looking at the first day of the Democratic convention yesterday, I see that they're still going to try to hold on to power with their old guard. They just expanded it a little bit, brought a few more Black folks in and a lot more women in and some Latinos in. But if you look through the schedule, there are not many young people even being featured. AOC is being featured. Ocasio-Cortez is being featured tomorrow, but tonight, but she's only given 50 seconds. So what is the strategy for winning? The strategy is to convert some of the Trump people who are disgusted as we are with Trump, and that's how they think they're going to win. That's a strategy. And if it works, it certainly was working last night. That was when they had that young Mexican woman on talking about the only precondition he had, her dead father had, was that he believed in Donald Trump. And he got COVID and he died. That was masterful.
Yes.
And the way they built up the presidential candidate that 30 years on Amtrak, and he knew all of those people. You can't make that up. That was Joe Biden. So I thought that was great, but it does not mean that that bus is changing direction. They still want to get us back to what was normal. We're going to have to push that bus the rest of the way once Biden gets elected. Exactly. I repeat, I think everybody should vote for Joe Biden. We got to get on that bus. But at the same time, understand that the ride is not over.
This whole bus analogy is so powerful, as somebody just said in the chat. And so I love what you said about, you know, changing directions, but like we got to go to some different neighborhoods. When you talk about getting more young people on board, if we keep the same route that we've been going on for the past few years, we're still leaving people out, and we're leaving our young people out. And like you said, you know, that was so powerful. It's like we have to get the young people on board if we're going to change directions, if we're going to go further than where we've been.
And at the same time, you know, we can talk about the young people, but keeping it real, there are people, elders, people younger than us that should know better, that are not voting. Okay, so yes, we can focus on the young people, but we know that there are people who are not voting, just like we know that there are people who should have done the census by now who are not. And so that lack of engagement was one of the things that Amiri championed. It's like, no, you're going to be a part of what is this thing that's going on. So we're going to teach you. So we just have to keep teaching. We have to. So here's my call to action. I said that I had a call to action. In December 2019, the Congress passed the Advanced Voting Rights Bill, Voting Rights Advancement Bill. And then it went over to the Senate. And it has been sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk since then. And it would, so the 1965 Voting Rights Act had to be strengthened in 1970, and it was 3 more times. Then in 2013, the Supreme Court struck down some of the strength of that bill. So now the bill sits on Mitch McConnell's desk at a time when we're talking about voting rights. So the call to action, and this is, it's just how everyone kind of thinks alike. I was thinking about it, and then the NAACP issued an action alert that the Voting Rights Advancement Bill be renamed to the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill, and that we push for the Senate to pass that bill now. So my call to action is in learning about politics, we're comfortable in New Jersey for the most part because we know we have 2 senators that we have access to, and pretty much they're on the right side, even though there are issues and they need pressing too. So we think like, well, why should we contact our senators? No, we need to contact our senators, and then we also need to contact Mitch McConnell. And so I have his number, and I'm going to say it very slowly so Aisha can put it in the chat room. And what I'm asking is that you either call McConnell or write McConnell and press on the movement of this voting rights bill, and that it also be renamed the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill. So Mitch McConnell's direct line is 202-225-2541. I'm going to say it again. 202-225-2541. When we get politically strong, we have to know that picking up the telephone and registering a call, we represent more than ourselves when we do that. And if you just want to call the switchboard, it's 202. This is the U.S. Capitol switchboard, 202-224-3121. Okay, the U.S. Capitol switchboard, 202-224-3121. So no, he's not our senator, but we still reign over him. He is still a public service. And so there's some people that are in this Zoom room, like Jan Morrell. I know she's gonna pick up the phone and call. I know that. And some other folks that are gonna pick up the phone. That's what we have to do, our call to action. And that's not about age. We do that, right? And then at the same time, pull along our young people as well.
Deborah, I love that, especially when you said it's not about age, because you're right. It's not just the young people who are not going to the polls. It's some that are our age, but I feel like it's some that are just feeling very apathetic, like, well, what does my vote count? Especially after this last election when we just thought we had it. And woke up that next morning. I remember my dad at the time, who was maybe 91, 92, and woke up that morning and said, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So it's right. I love your call to action, because we have to get everybody on this bus.
And not only do we want to get the name of the bill changed, we want him to put the bill up for a vote.
Exactly.
That's
Mm.
what he's doing. He's sitting on the bill.
Exactly.
The House of Representatives has already passed the bill, which
Right.
would restore the old uh, law, the voting rights law, which we fought so hard for, which John Lewis and the rest of the people fought so hard for. But this would make up for the Supreme Court decision to take out Section 4, which gives pre-clearance. What that meant was that the federal government had to pre-clear any of these laws that the states are putting up, like, for example, closing certain voting precincts, like all of these requirements for certain kinds of identification. All of that would have had to be pre-cleared by the Justice Department. But now we don't have that protection. And so you are finding, for example, in a place like Kentucky, the last primary they had, 640,000 people live in Louisville. They had one voter booth open.
Mm.
One voter booth open. Lexington, 340,000 people. One voting booth open. So that's the kind of thing that involvement means. That's why young people got to learn how to vote, because that means we will get the Senate back. So if we get the Senate back, that law can be passed and more people will be able to vote. Then you can sit down maybe and take it easy sometime and go to the Bahamas and miss a vote without worrying about whether you're going to come back and have the same country when you left. That's what's at stake, young people. Now I look through here and I don't know how old some of these people are. I know you ladies aren't going to tell your age anyway, but I bet I could poll the men and I would find out that we got mostly old folks. But at the same time, young people have to understand what's at stake. And I think we have to tell them, make Mitch McConnell release the bill and vote vote on it, because I think there may be some Republicans who will flip on this because they see where the handwriting is on the wall with Master Trump.
And the other resolution that the NAACP is bringing forth in September is a call to repeal the Electoral College, which is a whole nother conversation, and it's going to take time. But the Electoral College, as we all know, was based on slavery and slaves being counted as 3/5 of a person. And up to the day, we're still technically being counted as 3/5 of a person because that electoral college remains in effect. And it has to be one man, one vote, popular vote, which is why, Susan, when you said the next day when your relative woke up and said, what happened? Okay, so it wasn't that it wasn't that the current president won the popular vote, but he
Right.
win the electoral college. And young people don't understand that. And so that's why they think that their vote doesn't matter. And that's why they say, well, hey, it doesn't matter. There's something else going on and I can vote for whoever I want to vote for and they're still not going to win.
So important. And you're right. Like this needs to be taught in school. This needs, and I think it's not just the young people that don't understand this. There's so many of our teachers, so many people, period, do not understand how this works. But everybody needs to be educated on this, and we need to do this now. Like we don't have time to wait. So I'm so glad that you all brought this to our attention.
In our age, we have worth, we have value. Susan, like you said, we have wisdom. And each day that we are allowed some breath, we get an opportunity to share whatever it is that we know with someone. It could be one person. It doesn't have to be a young person. It could be a middle-aged person. And so young gets older as you get older. Right, guys? Right? Young gets older as you get older. So it could be someone in their 40s, right? We could talk to them. and explain some things to them and just have conversation with them. That's what Wilbur's that's what Wilbur does. That's why he's always at the park. That's his life, that's his passion. You know, he just, that's where he's going to be every day, no matter what. Junius is going to be beating the drums some kind of way. As a matter of fact, he has a new way, because he was talking earlier about his podcast upcoming.
Oh yeah, can you tell us about that?
Yes. I'm fixing to do a podcast, y'all. And it's going to be called Rise Up, Let's Rethink America. And it's going to be an examination of America, and we want to show people that the world, if we look around the world, we can see that there are other ways to do things better. So that's the overall thrust of it. And I'm going to start, as a matter of fact, I'm going to start by examining this whole Democratic convention, the people that were picked, the people who were not picked. So it's going to be out hopefully within the next week or so. Listen up for, I'm going to ask Aisha and Deborah and Susan and all the other people that I know for some names to put on a list so that we can email out to some people first, and then we're going to pick it up on social media as well. So wish me good luck as I impart upon this latest venture. The technology, I understand the power of it, but God did not gift me with a deft hand with machines. Thank goodness I'm surrounded by some folks like my son, who is both sons who are both very technically gifted, but especially the second one who just graduated from Hampshire College with a degree in film. So he helps me every day with this. I know he hates me for doing it, but he does.
But thank God you have that. And even with Wilbur, I know Wilbur, you have somebody helping you as well. Who is that that's helping you out?
Yeah, Isaiah Little, but all politics are local, you know, and I wish we would concentrate on all the things that you question what we should be doing. We should find out what our local politicians are doing. You know, we need the telephone number that was exhibited should be pushed to our elected officials and have a scorecard on which one of those politicians called up the congressman or the senator and find out what he's doing. We have to put pressure on our local politicians, from the door catcher to the governor, you know, of what they're actually doing. And they listen to your voice if enough people, and I am truly happy with what the young people are doing today. I'm like, you say I stay at the park, I'm like a long distance runner. I'm in the race, but when the pressure comes from behind, I move over and let the faster runners just move on past. And that's what I do. I just get out their way, you know, and I only give advice when they ask for it. I'm at the park only because I have a lot of literature here, and the vacuum hasn't been completely filled with Isaiah. He's electing his own board, you know, and it should be, but remember, while you're pushing all those Washingtonian politicians, deal with your local politicians, deal with your police chief. You know, you shouldn't have drugs sold on your corner wantonly, you know, and talking about saving the world. You shouldn't be talking about cleaning up the city without talking about the communities that are infested with rats. And we promote Mickey Mouse. He's a rat, you know. We have to clean up our own community. Until we do that locally, you know, that national scene is way beyond us. They're at the front of the pack, and we have to catch up.
Deborah, this is Barbara Stewart. I'm a former Norker. I've been with Junius Williams. We did Initiative Nork some 30-something years ago. I am honored that when you said the young becomes old, I am honored to be looking at my former principal. There's only one Eugene Campbell, Robert Treat Grammar School, 13th Avenue. So the young has become older. I'm 64. And what I want to share is, I've been with Larry Ham. I've been the screamer. I held the signs. Now I've taken a different route. I am a letter writer. When I need something done, I write a letter. I done been to the White House, to the Crack House, to the Pride House, to every house you want to think of. I'm pulling every experience I can as a Black woman, because right now I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. I have written letters to Governor Phil Murphy, my own mayor, Mayor John McCormick, Senator Vitality, Coughlin, every person I put in office. If you put them in, you have to make them work for you. If you think a letter doesn't say anything, it says a whole lot, because people don't write letters anymore. Emails, people can't even get to the emails anymore. I don't have anyone to help me technology-wise, but I'm okay. The last letter I sent, because I'm involved with NAMI New Jersey, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and being a Black woman and knowing how the police force handles certain situations, I wrote a letter to the director of the Woodbridge Police Department. Here's my hand to sweet God. I sent it out on a Monday, and in 48 hours, this man responded to me. In 48 hours, we were on the telephone because the letter came from my heart. And I'm saying, you know, I keep it real, and they want you to keep it real. I say, hey, I'm Black, and I want to be able to support my police department in handling these cases the way they should be handled. Instead of shooting first, what kind of crisis intervention police officers do we have? Had a full-blown conversation as if I've been knowing this man personally forever. Never met him, but sent one letter. I heard from Senator Vitale office. I heard from the mayor's office. Anything that regarded me, they answered me. But it was a mature, I don't come with you angry. There was this great woman, poet, I don't know which one. It was on one of my radio talk shows. And she said, we cannot forget the pain. We cannot forget the pain, but we can't always show up angry. There's a method to the madness, and they taught me. And I know how to show up and get what I need done. So I am very honored to be on this Zoom with the Pearls of Wisdom. So thank you.
We appreciate you, Barbara. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Amen. We need to write letters. So as an educator, and even though I'm in the dance studio, we create from what we know. And I think, Ms. Stewart, what you said about just writing letters and making sure those that we've elected and we've put into office, we have to hold them accountable. So even as a dance educator, and I just challenge all of the educators out here to, you know, to put that into our lessons, to put that into our curriculums, to encourage our students, to encourage their parents to write letters when they're unhappy about something, when you see something in your neighborhood that's not working, that you need to put pen to paper and write the letters. So thank you so much for that, Ms. Stewart. So we are, I don't know how much time we still have, if we are out of time.
Out of time.
Okay.
We want it to be a lunchtime because we know, although some people are working from home, but some people, this is their actual lunch break. So we want to honor that. But oh my gosh, we need some more time. Don't we need more time?
Yes,
This
yes,
was
yes.
an amazing conversation as the one that we had last time. And we have another one in September. You know, we have a lot of wisdom in Newark. And so we just are so honored that they take the time out to not only engage with us, to share wisdom, but also to learn virtually how to engage in this time. It is not easy for everyone, even those who have technology. Sometimes we don't have the bandwidth. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we just clap it up for our panelists? clap it up for our hostess. Thank you so much, Junius Williams, Wilbur McNeil. Thank you so much, Deborah Smith Gregory. We honor you for your wisdom, and thank you so much, Susan Pope, for really rushing behind us saying, we got to do this. We knew that we had to do it. We didn't have the bandwidth to do it, and surely you made it possible. So we appreciate you. And on behalf of NJPAC and all of our leadership, we want to say thank you for being with us, not only today. Please stop by the NJPAC in your living room website for the current programming, but also this recording. If you go to YouTube, NJPAC, New Jersey Performing Arts Center YouTube page, you will see all of our virtual programming. It is all library there. Books on the Move, our social justice. We had an amazing conversation last night about the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. Please get in where you fit in, but even when you don't have the time, share the link and make sure that someone hears this message that we share today. Have an amazing afternoon. And remember, stay socially distant and stay masked and stay healthy and stay well. Bye for now.
Very good.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Hi, Eugene. He was our speaker from last month.
Yes.
We're so excited you joined us again. We appreciate you all. If you know any of these speakers, please come off of mute. This is your time to shout them out. We're going to take 5 minutes just to give accolades and just appreciate our elders. They have no idea who came to see them. So if you know them personally, please put a note in the chat or just come off of mute really quick and just say, hey. No
Hey,
disrespect.
Will, you did a great job.
Thank you, Gene.
Great information.
Hey, Juniors.
We need to get the young people out.
Yes.
It's Walt
Yeah.
Chambers. You asked for my number.
Yes, Walt Chambers. What is it?
973-678-6311.
How you doing, Walt?
Hey, man.
Thank you, Walt.
Well done.
Hey, Walter, I'm glad to see you.
Hi, Jan.
Yeah,
Hi, Jan Morel.
I'm an elder by age.
Well,
Hey,
but
Junior,
what
you
park
can't
are
keep
you
hiding
in?
those books.
What'd you say?
You can't hide those books. I got to get copies of all of them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely got to get a copy of that.
All right. Well,
All right.
I'm writing my letter, Jan.
How do we order your book?
you just go to the usual place. Just
Amazon?
Amazon. Just put in Unfinished Agenda. By
Barnes and Noble on Halsey Street has it too.
Oh, they do?
Hi, Janice Morel. That's my neighbor.
How you
Hi.
doing? That's good to know. I like to go to the bookshop and find it right there. That makes me feel good.
Does Source of Knowledge have it in downtown Newark?
Yes.
I don't. I haven't been in a while. Okay.
Bibliophiles have it as well? Or no?
Which one?
Bibliophiles?
I didn't hear that one.
I don't know that one.
There's a bibliophile. I'll get the information to Deborah Smith Gregory and the Pearls of Wisdom. It's a bookstore downtown, and they participate in our Authors Expo every year.
But you said Barnes and Noble has it?
Yes.
The one down on Halsey Street?
Yes.
That's Rutgers Bookstore, right?
Yes.
Absolutely, Gene. Right across from your son.
Right.
That's what he was pushing.
That's right. I've been there a
I
couple
know.
times. That's important to talk about the young folks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to keep him employed. Plus,
I
he makes
do,
good
I do
food.
too.
And it's Janice Morel. How come you won't let us see you?
My camera's not working. I have to get a new laptop.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have a GoFundMe for Janice.
I want to congratulate my student from Robert Treat. I'm glad that she's active.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
That's why I love this platform. We have little reunions. If you did it on Facebook Live, you don't get to interact with people, so we just appreciate you. Oh, and here comes Donna. Donna's saying goodbye. I mean, hello, as we're leaving. She probably had a meeting.
Hi, Donna.
Did she make it in yet? Hi, Donna.
Hey, Donna.
Nice picture.
Hi.
I
Hey, Gene Wall, I'm glad that you still use the name Robert Treat.
No, I wish you would.
The story. You know my feeling about that.
I wish you would.
No, I just said, because she mentioned Robert Treat, but I always
Yeah.
just say Marcus Garvey.
Right.
Well,
Right,
That
Wall.
that upset a lot of people when it became Marcus Garvey.
That's right, and they tore it down.
but I heard, I think it was Susan say at the top of this program, she didn't know the history of Irvine Turner.
Right.
Right.
I rest my case.
And we walk in that park
Okay.
every single day.
Yeah.
Susan and I walk every day, so that was great to hear.
Aisha, can you send me a link for this?
Yes, we can. I will send you the recording, and I will also send you the link in, it's a YouTube link now. It automatically goes in the archive, so anybody can see it at any time.
All right. Well, will I be able to pull Wilbur's statements out? And also, I want to get, who else? Deborah Smith-Gregg was dropping that history about Barack. I want that to
You
go.
can pull it all.
Okay, good. All right.
This was so wonderful.
Junius, how you doing?
I'm all right. Who's that?
Isaiah.
Hey, Isaiah. Good to
All right.
see you. Haven't seen you in a while.
I know. I definitely want to just follow up really quickly. I wanted to assist Wilbur with sharing that information that you may need about the park, or any others, just regarding the, Rise Up North, etc.
Okay.
Isaiah, we should have a whole group of young people out there getting out the vote.
I mean, we working on it. I had a conversation with your son not too long ago that Wilbur knows about. So yeah, I'm always in conference with that guy.
So we have to make sure.
Can you put your information in? I know I have it and my Rolodex in the office, but put your information in the chat here for me. I want to share some information that we're doing with Governor Phil Murphy for the census. Since the date has been moved up to September 30th, we're going into the parks with Pastor Pamela Jones.
Okay.
So we have 2 weekends that we're saturating about 15 parks around the state. And as people are walking through the parks, we're encouraging them, did you vote? Did you vote? T-Mobile has given us, donated some computers. So if they have not voted already, we want them to put on gloves. We'll have gloves that day and masks, and we want them to register in the park.
Aisha, you should talk to Kalina Berriman about getting the YMS students to get involved in that too.
You got it. How do I get to her?
That would be Kalina Berriman at Rutgers.edu, or either Kalina Berriman at gmail.com. Use that second one. I'm not sure about you Kalina Berriman at Gmail. I know that's good.
You got it. We'll do. I'll do that today. Well, thank you all. We are over our time, and I definitely have another meeting. Donna, do you want to say hello? It was
hello. I'm sorry I couldn't get on. I had the link from the previous meeting. Anyway, so happy to see all of you. I'm sure you had a rich conversation, and we have much work to do. We have to keep the dialogue. Yeah.
Keep up the good work, Donna and Aisha.
All of us. We're working together.
All of us. Deborah, we couldn't do it without all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deborah.
Being quarantined has been profitable.
It has. It has.
All right, everyone, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice session.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Casey, good to see you.
Good seeing you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.